Now that we have all of our animations set up, let's add some interactivity to this scene. I'm just going to reset our knight's position and we're going to go to our interactions tab. We've got nothing going on here. Down in this window you see our different interaction types, which is a tap, one little tap on the screen, a press, which has a duration, so the longer you hold it, that's when an interaction occurs. Drag, you can actually move assets around on the scene and they'll stay in the position that you leave them, and swipe, just swiping in the direction. Tilt, you tilt the iPad. Shake, you actually physically shake the iPad. These are event triggers, so these will set up an animation or something to happen after something that happens first, and these are tied to the scene, either entering or exiting the scene. So the first thing we want to do is set up our chop. So we're going to grab a tap trigger. We're going to drop it on our axe arm there. So we're going to go and say one time when we tap this area, which is the axe, we want the animation chop to play, and that's that. Let's give him a jump as well. So we'll say tap on the head. When that happens, we're going to have him jump. No, actually we'll do a simple jump because that's what I set up. And so every time we tap him, we'll leave that on always. So if they want to play with that before they move on to that part of the story where he vanquishes the troll, they can jump up and down to their heart's delight. Now what we might want to do is add a sound on this as well, but I'll do that in a different video. The next animation we want is to have him slide over to the troll. So we're going to use a swipe. We're going to put it on the body because that's the biggest target. So that's a little tip. If you're going to have swipe types of interactions or swipe triggers, you want to put it on a fairly large area of the screen. Really small things like his legs down here or a hand or something like that, they're hard targets to hit. And if you're doing this for children, they're going to have a little bit of a harder time even still because of gross motor skills and fine motor skills. You want to make sure that you have a fairly big target for that swipe animation because that's the action that we're going to be using. In this case, we want it to happen once. It's going to swipe to the right. And when that happens, we're going to trigger the slide right animation and our knight's going to slide up to the troll. The next thing we want to do is some event triggers. So in this case, we're going to do a animation. We're going to call it R fade because this is going to be our words above his head. And we're going to say one time at the end of the chop animation, we're going to play R. And that's so when the knight does the chop, R is going to fade in and out, and that's going to be our animation. Now we could add the troll fade after this, but I found that the timing is off a little bit. So you might have the start of the troll fade happen before the arg is finished. So instead, what I'm going to do is add a second animation-based trigger. We're going to call this troll fade. And we're going to say at the end of this, when our fade is finished, we're going to play our troll fade. So we'll get a slide, a chop, an R, and then he'll fade away, which means he was transported to another lovely part of the swamp, which he likes much better than the one that he's in here. So those are our basic interactions. Another good practice is to name them. So this is slide right, because if you've got a lot of animations on the screen, a lot of interactions on the screen, you want to be able to know what's going on where. This one is jump, and this one is chop. Now, you'll have to take my word for it until we do a preview on the iPad that this is happening, but that's why it's so great to have a tablet handy and to be able to use the Lightwell Preview app on your iPad to check these animations as you go along. So those are our simple interactions. Those will move the story forward. I've set them all up so they only happen once with the exception of the jump, and that's just a way to have the story happen and move it forward.